Okay, so we're live now. I'm going to go ahead and, since we're recording and we're streaming, Ron, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you.
Go for it.
Let me just check one thing. I got the chat open. And so, everybody, I just want to say, if you're just now joining us, welcome to Zillow Academy. We're trying this new platform. This way you get to actually meet myself and you get to meet my guests and anybody else we have here on the Hangout. Today I have a very special guest from Napa Consultants. His name is Ron. He's going to be talking to you about which niche is the niche, or I should say, and he corrected me on this already. It's not niche. I guess it depends, tomato, tomato, but it's niche. And which niche can make you rich? So I want to introduce Ron. This is Ron. How are you, man? Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Hi.
How you doing, man?
Great.
Hey, thanks for doing this. So do me a favor, just introduce yourself. Give us a little background about yourself. Tell us who you're with. I mean, they know you're Napa Consultants, but what you do, how you got in this crazy business, and then how long you've been doing this, and what they're going to learn today.
Okay. Napa Consultants International is the leading brand strategist in the luxury real estate industry. This webinar on which niche can make you rich applies not just to the luxury real estate industry, but the entire real estate industry. In fact, any business who wants to dominate a particular segment of their marketplace. Our background is that we were, my wife and I, Alexandra and I, who you'll meet through seeing her picture here, commercial real estate brokers. We owned a commercial real estate firm in Beverly Hills for over 20 years, but we love the marketing industry, and we switched to a different niche to helping agents dominate a niche, select and dominate a niche. We've been doing that for over a decade, and we work with some of the top agents in the world. We only take on either market leaders or those who want to challenge market leaders. You're going to really enjoy this webinar. I'll tell you everything about what we're going to cover as we go through.
Nice. So I think at this point what I'll do is I'll go ahead and give you the controls. You've got the controls there on your side. You can start sharing whatever slides or information, websites, anything you want to share today.
Okie doke.
Let me just let everybody know, if you do have questions, I've got a chat that's open right now, and I also have a Q&A. So I've even got my email open on another screen over here. So if you have any questions for Ron or during the session, please feel free to either text me, use the questions box, use the chat box. You can send me an email, brada@zillow.com, and I'm going to let Ron go ahead and run the show here.
Great. Thank you very much for inviting us, Brad, and it's really a privilege to be here. And thanks to all of you who are taking the time out of your busy days to attend. It's our absolute promise that the time that you spend here is going to be well worth it. At Napa Consultants International, Alexander and I specialize in real estate and working with real estate professionals to help them gain or maintain what we call the top of mind status within a specific market niche, a specific market segment. And if there is just one takeaway from this webinar, and there's going to be many, I absolutely promise that, it's the unabashed pursuit of market leadership is all about being the first agent or broker that comes to mind when your target market thinks about you or your area of specialization or your niche. Now, I want to tell you how we've discovered how top of mind status became so important. And it happened in our commercial real estate firm when we were given the opportunity to take on a very prestigious listing, a commercial building right next to Cedars-Sinai, adjacent to Beverly Hills. That's where we worked. And the way that we got this job, we found out, was that the developer contacted 3 of his best friends in the business and asked them, who should I have list my property? And every single one of them came up with Ron and Alexander Siegel to do this project. And we were the first to come to mind, and the guy said, all right, this is the one. We got the job. And because we were the top of mind and those were in his realm of his sphere of influence, that one listing represented over $250,000 in business to us, not just from the commissions from the leasing, it was a leasing project that we did, but from sign calls. And we really got it right then and there that top of mind status was what it took to dominate our niche in commercial real estate, which was high-end retail or small boutique office buildings in the Beverly Hills and Beverly Hills adjacent area. It's that top of mind status that can make you rich. It's a question of finding your right niche that's right for you and then finding the right strategy to dominate it. It's about capturing the lion's share of business in your niche. And it's who comes to mind first that makes the difference. So what's the #1 secret of market leadership? The #1 secret of market leadership is specializing in one area and then going after top of mind status on purpose. Now our question to you is, what would it mean to you if you were able to attain and maintain top of mind status in your area of specialization? And it's obviously more money because it's the lion's share of the business. So the #1 secret of market leaders is going after top of mind status on purpose. And that's exactly what we do in our practice. That's specifically what we go after in working with people. What we find about market leaders is that if you don't challenge them, they get complacent. And this is another secret about market leaders. If you they get overconfident and they get complacent, and when that happens, they're vulnerable. So when we work with a client, we look for where are the vulnerabilities of the market leaders, because that's what you have to do to strategize, to figure out how to secure, how to seize that top of mind status. Here's another thing that we realized, and that is very, very few agents, even the top market leaders, cannot articulate how they're different from everyone else. It's like the sea of sameness. How do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? What's your unique promise of value, and is it obvious? And here is a story that happened that really made this obvious to us. We were invited to a presentation of a room full of 40 agents that no one in the room earned less than $600,000 in annual commissions. And each one of them was asked to get up in front of the room and articulate what makes them different. What is their unique promise of value? And not a single one of them could specifically tell the group how they were different. This is really what is key, is you've got to be able to tell people in a nanosecond how you're different. Our unique promise of value in our consulting practice is we help agents and brokers to decide and how to articulate how they're different and how to say it in a nanosecond, how to reach top of mind status on purpose. And that takes strategy to really figure out how to gain that top of mind status. So our questions to you are you spinning your wheels in your current niche? Are you not getting the kind of income that you're looking for? Are you scrambling around and not getting anywhere? Are you spinning your wheels? Maybe it's time for you to switch your niche. You may not need to even switch your niche. You may need to switch your perspective on how you're approaching it. You know this idea of the vase and the faces. If you look at the black background, you'll see two faces facing each other. If you look at a white background, you'll see a black vase. That's what we mean by switching your perspective. It could be that or switching your niche. Then the next thing we want to make so clear is that if you cannot be #1 or #2, you should switch your niche. It's a hobby that you're doing, or is it a business? The top market leaders are looking at their practice as a business, and they're looking at it. This is a message that the CEO of GE came out with his whole organization. We can't be #1 or #2 in a given area of business. We ditched the whole idea of that niche. So here's another thing that we're going to be covering here, and that is how to balance high-tech and high-touch in your marketing approach, in your strategies. So let's talk about what a niche is real quick. A niche, again, is a very specific area of specialization within the industry. Let's look at this concept in music. In popular music, there's 16 different genres, from African, from avant-garde to blues, country, whatever, in the music industry. And in jazz, there's 50 subcategories just in jazz alone. So think about it. If you're a fan of American Idol or the X Factor or The Voice, those judges are telling the contestants, decide what kind of artist you are, and then get on that brand position, as we call it. Make it so clear that you're a country star, you're a rock star, you're a jazz artist. So here's the question for you. What is the #1 marketing mistake? The #1 marketing mistake that agents and brokers make constantly is trying to be a jack of all trades and the master of none. And this is something that so many agents are guilty of. They don't realize, they're afraid if they don't take any business that comes their way, that they're going to miss out on something. And it's the furthest thing from the way that marketing really works. So let's demonstrate this so that this concept is crystal clear to you. Who is the first female country singer in the last 10 years that comes to your mind? Carrie Underwood is the first #1 female artist in all of country music. Is she
Dolly Parton?
What's that? You're going to say Dolly
Parton?
Yeah, I mean, it's been true, but not in the last 10 years.
That's true. That's true. You got it.
That's the key. So, but she tried? She dabbled in Sound of Music on television. It was a complete flop. She was experimenting, which is a good thing, but you really need to stay on that brand signal of yours. All right, here's the next question. Who's the best-selling female pop artist of all time? You probably know Barbra Streisand. 240 million records are sold. But you know that Barbra Streisand never, ever, ever did a country album. She never did a hip-hop album. She stayed within that pop realm and of pop art as a pop artist, and that's how she made so much money and sold so many records. So how do you dominate your niche? This is something we're going to talk about. Here's a question for you to demonstrate how to dominate a niche. Who's the first dog trainer that comes to your mind in the world? Who is the first one that comes to your mind? Is there any dog trainer that comes to your mind? And the answer, Cesar Millan. He's the most famous dog trainer in the world. He's the leading authority, the undisputed expert. He's the specialist. He is a personal brand. He's a one-man brand. He has branded himself as the dog whisperer. You may not know Cesar Millan, but you may know Dog Whisperer because that's the brand. When it comes to niche marketing, personal branding is imperative. It's not even an option. Again, within the context of either being #1 or #2. When you do that, you can get on social media, you can get on television, you can get on magazines, books. People want your opinion, that the media seeks your opinion because you're the expert, you're the first to come to mind. Let's demonstrate this top-of-mind status again. What is the first cellophane tape that comes to your mind? Can you even think of another brand besides Scotch tape? It's almost impossible. You can't even think of #2. All right, let's try another one. How about, what's the first facial tissue that comes to your mind? Can you think of any other brand besides Kleenex? Puffs may come to your mind. That's #2. What's the first MP3 player that comes to your mind? You probably came up with the iPod because it is the #1 MP3 player in the world. And here's the thing. Steve Jobs, when he was the most famous of the last century CEO, what his mantra with Apple was focus. Focus on doing a few things and doing them better than anyone else in the world. And I think that you know from the statistics of Apple is the #1 most highly valued company in the world. on the stock market, it worked. So here's a case study of a client of ours in Ocean Reef, Florida. Ocean Reef, Florida is a private club. It's an hour south of Miami. It's almost under the radar, but it happens to be the wealthiest community in the world. And we worked with Mary Lee there, who was a Sotheby's agent. She called us, she and her husband John called us that she wanted to be the market leader at Ocean Reef. And we took her on as a client, and within a year, we brought her from 0 listings to 100 million in listings, and she became the market leader. After that, she and John acquired the Prudential franchise there. We dropped the name Prudential and we rebranded the company. She inherited 14 agents. It became a brokerage firm. And then we positioned Mary Lee Presents Ocean Reef to compete with Sotheby's to be the #1 brokerage firm there. Within a year, we took that company and increased sales by 700%. And then something unusual happened. The club itself, private club itself, wanted to go into the real estate business. And instead of competing, John and Mary concluded that they would allow the club to acquire their company. So how do we do this? We did it because we positioned them and Mary in particular as the leading expert in waterfront properties. And that's how she had a boat called the Reef Explorer. She would do tours in her boat, and that's how she did it. So that's the kind of thing that it takes to get to that top of mind status. There's the Reef Explorer. Mary Lee Presents Ocean Reef Properties. So what is the #1 marketing fear? This is something that comes up constantly. Brad, we've talked about this together. It's getting pigeonholed.
Yeah.
And it is something that it's a natural fear that what happens if I commit to being #1 in a niche? I'll miss out on business in other aspects of the market. And it's the biggest mistake not to focus. You just have to find the right niche that can make you rich. So here's another case study of Tanya Murray in Las Vegas. She came to us all over the place, making a lot of money, but she wanted to get this particular luxury real estate listing. It was a $14 million listing in Las Vegas. We totally rebranded her, created a whole personal brand, a luxury brand around Tanya Murray, and totally immersed her in the art of marketing luxury real estate. And what happened is she got the listing and sold it, and it was the highest priced home sold that year in Las Vegas. And what happened afterwards, she became known for being a luxury real estate specialist, and literally homeowners came to her, literally 4 or 5 of them came to her just to give her the listing because of what she had accomplished by being focused. That's that combination of reaching top of mind for your niche and then dominating that niche, and that's what happened. So how do you pick the right niche for you? Before we ask that question, before we get into answering that question, I have another question for you. Who's the first nonagenarian that comes to your mind first? That means someone between the ages of 90 and 100. Well, Betty White is definitely the top nonagenarian in the world, and that woman, I'm telling you, she's in her 90s, and we happen to know her personally because we were neighbors, and she cannot beat away business. I mean, she keeps being offered roles and commercials. It's constant. So our first bit of advice here, if you want to pick a niche, is find a niche that's uncontested or that's underserved. That's the key. Find the niche that's underserved or uncontested, and no one is even discussing this.
Ron, can I just interject, because that was one of the questions that was emailed into me just now, was how do you find that uncontested niche or niche?
How do you find that niche?
Yeah, so like everybody has, let's say I wanted to focus on a specific land type or vacant land, or I just want to be the new home subdivision. I mean, how do you find something that is uncontested?
The thing about this is, if it was so obvious, everyone would find it. And it takes an aerial view. It takes a fresh eyes. That's what we do when we come in and work with a new client, is we look at the same set of facts from a whole different perspective. That they're seeing it over and over from the same point of view. One example of that was the shoreline on the East Coast, and one of the great marketplaces there was a town where our client was working in, where there was a property manager that would in her 80s. There's only one, and she would answer her phone maybe if you're lucky, and everyone knew about it, but no one was saying, wait a minute, it's not necessarily what you can do, what you are doing. You have to find something that you can do best. You've got to find something that you can do better than anybody else. You've got to find those niches, and you have to look. So the answer is, you got to get eagle eyes and start looking around and discovering who's doing what and what's not being done well. So here's the next thing you need to do. You need to, and this kind of dovetails into this, you got to find a niche that you can serve better than anybody else. It's your talents, your specific abilities. You should look inside yourself. Here's the first place to start. What can I do better than anybody else? And that's a really good place to start. So here's a few examples of some niches. Here in San Francisco, it's Victorian homes. Maybe that if you have a passion for architecture. If you have a relationship with the military in some way, military relocation could be your niche. Ski in, ski out. In a ski resort market would be an example of a niche. So it's a matter of finding, what are the possibilities, and then finding something that's not being done very well by whoever is there, or not at all. So here's another thing. It's got to be something you're passionate about. You've got to find, maybe it's the environment, or maybe it's equestrian properties, eco luxury, or eco specially built homes, or landscaping, or whatever. But it's got to be something that you wake up in the morning and are just thrilled to get to work and enjoy what you're doing. You've got to love what you're doing, and that's another place to look for the answer to this question. Pick a niche that feels good. There's another answer. It's got to fit like a glove. You got to feel like you're in your element, in the groove, in the zone, in your zone. It's got to be. You got to feel like you're on what we call your brand signal. So the fifth, of course, is you got to make sure when you're picking a niche that it's capable of satisfying your personal income goals. You got to pick a niche that can make you rich. Okay, let's talk about balancing high-tech and high-touch, and happy to answer additional questions after we go through the rest of this. This is another key element. People and agents are so overwhelmed with technology. We have social media fatigue. It's gotten to a point where we're so glued to the computer. We got to get back to that high touch. And finding that balance is key. So here's another question for you on the idea of top of mind status. What is the first search engine that comes to your mind? Well, if you're like 66% of all human beings on the planet with a computer connected to the internet, Google will come to mind first. But here's what's so significant from a economic standpoint. The next closest in market share is MSN Bing with 18%. Look at the difference between 66% and 18%, and Yahoo with 11%. There's so much at stake to first secure and seize that top of mind status. Market share always precedes mind share. So here's an example of a client of ours, Stephen Shane in Aspen. Stephen is the #1 independent broker, volume-wise, in all of Aspen. He is passionate about cycling. So what he did in his community, there's Stephen, he found something that he could do to sponsor, in his case, sponsor they have like the equivalent of the Tour de France cycling event that goes through Aspen, and he sponsored that leg of the tour and became a local hero because no one was stepping up to the plate, and got tremendous visibility. Even on television, on CNN, he got visibility. So that's a way to catapult yourself to top of mind status by doing that high touch move in your local communities. Another thing to differentiate yourself is to have a website that just is absolutely stunning and better than anything else that your competitors have out there. And that's really important. Here's a case study of Mark Vanderlinde, who's not a blogger. He's not. He's active in his community, but in other ways unrelated to real estate completely. And we took his website, and here's the thing that is an example of high tech that you can you take that, especially in luxury real estate. It's so important to display the listings better than anyone else. So we've took the entire MLS and completely created a customized IDX for him that was just ran circles around his competition. So anyone that came to his website, it was obvious and that it was superior. And here's an example. You could toggle between an immediate aerial view, not just your map view, but right over the house, right back and forth with one click. So top of mind status for whichever angle works best for you is the key, but you got to do it on purpose. And that's the whole idea of achieving market leadership, gaining that lion's share, reaching top of mind status first. And that's what it takes to dominate your niche, and finding the right niche is what is the first step. There you have it. Brad.
That's it?
That's it. We can talk further. I thought we'd turn it over and ask questions. We can answer more specifics.
So a couple of people wanted to know why I had muted myself and why I wasn't showing on the screen. And it's because I'm chatting with Nolene and, let's see, Donna. So a couple of people were asking, hey, is this going to be available later? So do you mind if I share a screen real quick just to answer a couple questions, Ron?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so the Zillow, here, let me go back to screen share and say I'm going to screen share, and then we'll go here. Okay, so you should be able to see the Academy calendar. So what we're doing, folks, is basically there's a couple of different styles of webinars. Some of you are used to doing the GoToWebinars. This is what we call, I'm calling it the Zillow for Pros Hangout, because it's using the Google platform. So Ron can share his screen, I can share my screen. It's a much more powerful, platform. We're not limited to having only just 1,000 people here. While the audience isn't large, it's because we're not promoting this on a big scale yet, because we want to work through some of the kinks and bugs. So thank you to Natalie. Thank you to Donna for your comments in the chat. But this is where all of the stuff that happens at Zillow Academy will be. So you'll see even in today's training, there are 2 classes. There was this morning's Tech Connect, and then I've got Ron as my guest today. These are 2 entirely different platforms, but I'm going to compile all the recorded sessions here on this recorded webinars page. So if you wanted to watch this at a later time, we're actually streaming live right now over on my Google Plus channel, which will eventually be the Zillow Google Plus channel. And we're also live on YouTube right now. So if you were to go over to my YouTube channel, you could play this along live on YouTube. So the nice thing about this, to answer all your questions that were regarding this is different than the other webinars you've done, it is. And it allows us to do, for obvious reasons, a wider scale broadband release. We can do this on YouTube. We're live streaming on Google Plus. Those of you who registered, you're here now seeing the screens. So it's just a great feature, and that's where we're still going to host everything right here at Zillow Academy. All the tutorial videos, all the recorded sessions, and then all the upcoming sessions will be here. And you'll find these because when you go to register for one of these events, the screens look like this. And many of you have seen the GoToWebinar landing pages. Can you all see this screen, Ron?
Yes, can.
So this is a little bit different. The registration's different, and you'll know that this is going to be a Hangout. Now, for those of you who would want to join us, if you have a Gmail account, you can actually come into the meeting. I plan on, and I hope to have Ron back and do something. I got some other questions for you, Ron, so don't go away.
Okay.
We plan on having some panels here. What I'd like to do is bring in the top 3 producing agents in the country, have them share tips on how they got to that point in their careers. I'd like to bring people back like Ron and other people. I was telling my friend who was a graduate of Tom Ferry. Tom Ferry runs a consulting firm. And I said, you know, I look at Ron's program kind of like he takes the Tom graduates and he takes them and he just fine-tunes that niche. And that's why I'm really grateful you're here today, Ron, because there's so many people that just go through their career for sometimes years before they realize, you know, I could just focus on this, and while I would be giving up, and you alluded to this earlier in your presentation, I could be giving up the condos, and what about, you know, I was on goal to do X amount in this specific market, but by really carving out a niche, and I hear this so often, I teach a target marketing class, and that target marketing is niche marketing, but I think what Ron and Alexandra do is help you with a specialty. So it's not just saying, well, let us help you find a niche. And that was what a couple people had asked Ron is, what do you do as far as like, here, let me show off your page because I know you're a humble guy and you probably won't do it. Here's their website. So those of you who asked, this is Napa Consultants. And Ron's obviously not selling anything here today, but he is. Am I sharing my screen? I don't think I am.
Not yet.
So let me say screen share, boom, and we'll say, where is that? Here we go. Start sharing screen. Now you should see it. Yes?
Yes.
So this is their website. This is just napaconsultants.com. There were a few other questions that came in, but I'm going to recommend that those folks contact you directly while you're here as volunteering your time today, Ron, and I do appreciate you doing that. Some people are wanting to know, you know, how they can get in touch with you. So is this the best way, or what do you recommend for folks who want to maybe talk to you about what you can do to help them?
We are more than happy to talk to anybody about this. You're welcome to come to our website, napaconsultants.com. Our phone number is right there on the About page, and delighted to speak with people. What I can say is that we work with those agents and brokers who really want to dominate their niche, and we're selective in that respect because it takes that fire in your belly and to have that constitution to really want to go after that lion's share. It's only within that number 1 or number 2 or the idea of dominating a niche that where brand strategy applies. And we're brand strategists. Yes, we build websites for our clients. We don't do it as a standalone service. We build it for our clients. And you can contact us about that through napaconsultants.com. But it's so important that I'm happy to talk to anybody about this, that you have that real desire to gain the lion's share of the business.
So here's a really great question from Larry Laufer, and he totally gets it. It's like, okay, so I could bring on Ron as my consultant, you know, spend some cash, you know, on me and my business. But I love this. He says, what about the baby steps to get me to the point where I can even hire a professional like Ron? What do you say to that?
Follow your passion. and it will lead you to the bigger steps. The baby steps are trusting your instincts and following your bliss. You know, if you're really passionate about what you're doing, you will find it. That's my answer, really.
Okay. So go ahead and if you can click on the share screen.
Oh, sure.
Then we can see you.
Sure. Hi, Larry, by the way.
Do you know Larry Lawfer?
I do.
Awesome. Awesome.
Did that work?
Yeah, there you are.
Great.
So a couple of questions I had. When you talk about finding a niche, and I like how you had said uncontested.
Yep.
So as an agent, I mean, really when you're talking about a niche, Ron, we're talking about, you know, I got to tell you this story because this falls right into, I think, target marketing, niche marketing, where you could help this person fine tune. There's a guy out of Walnut Creek, California, and he had called me up because I had done a target marketing training class where I had showed, you know, how to go after the empty nester who's got the 8-bedroom home and has owned it for 25 years. You know that's
Sure.
Too big, too much house, 2-story. And I'd done all these target ideas, and then I shared one about use codes. So there are I work for the title business, and there's over 99 different use codes for property, for real property. Everything from single-family home, strip malls, bowling alleys, golf courses. The guy calls me up and he says, can you pull up all the homes adjacent to a cemetery? And I'm thinking, okay, that's weird. You know, that's just morbid. Yeah. And he said, no, what it is I noticed driving home that there are people living in these homes, and none of them are for sale, yet they had to buy them. And so he says there's no competition. What I want to do is pull up all the cemeteries, and my niche is going to be any home adjacent to a cemetery. Number one, I have no competition. I have no listing competitors. I might not even have anybody showing the property because they might not want to live next to a cemetery, which means I'll represent my own buyers, which means I'll double end the deals.
Right.
And I was fascinated. What do you say to something like that? Is that a niche?
It can be a niche can be a type of property. A niche can be the psychographics, meaning by psychographics I mean the mindset of the target market. Okay. Philanthropic people who are very philanthropic, that could be a niche. There's so many different approaches to it, and I think that this might answer this question and more about how do you find a niche. I think that this really will illustrate this concept.
Okay.
When you think of rental cars, what companies come to your mind first? What's the first number?
Avis, Budget.
Okay. That was 3. Can you think of a 4th? Blank. If you have a blank for more than a second and a half, that's not top of mind status. So
I'm with you.
And what's interesting about this is that Enterprise did not even come to mind. So here's what Enterprise did. Enterprise was looking for the uncontested market niche. And how do you compete with these 2 global behemoths, Avis and Hertz? Hertz obviously is number 1.
Yeah.
So what they did was they said, we're going to be number 1 in the United States. And the way that they went about doing that was they decided they're going to be the best in the world at local rental, not just from the airport. So what that meant was anyone who had an accident, they want that client. Anyone who is getting their car repaired, they want that client. And anyone whose car has been stolen, they want that client. And so they went about, that was that uncontested market niche, and they went and opened satellite offices in closer to the neighborhoods where the people were, instead of having to go to the airport. And what happened is Enterprise became number 1 in the United States, more than Hearst and more than Avis. And that's
now,
how
Enterprise, isn't Enterprise the one that will actually like pick you up and drop you off? I remember using them in a situation, and they actually brought the rental car to me, picked me up, took me back to the place, let me fill out the forms, and then I drove off with it. So
there you go. It was underserved. That client was underserved. Now, how the answer, for the person who said, how do you find that niche? Mm-hmm. It's all about strategy. You really have to have, that's why I said that you have to follow your passion as the baby step, so to speak, because they wanted it so much. When the need is there, your perception shifts.
Right.
And what we do is, that's why we work with only those people who have that much determination already. We're the catalyst, we're the booster rocket. We accelerate the process, and we know how to implement define the strategy, and then help them implement the strategy. That's how it works. You have to have that desire. Without the desire, if you're just complacent, I'd like to, it'd be a nice idea to be number one and number two. Bullshit. There's no baby steps is the real answer to this question. You have to dive in. And you dive in only when, you don't have to, but only when you have that fire in your belly. So you got to get the fire in the belly first, and then your perception sharpens. It sharpens, and then you'll recognize it when you see it.
Makes total sense. Makes total sense. Okay, so if there's any, is there anything else you want to share? I mean, for some of the private questions, what's the best way you want people to get a hold of you, Ron?
You can go to our website. You can email us directly from the website, or you can call us on our phone. We're here in Santa Barbara, California, at 805-684-8180. It's also, that number's on the website. Honestly happy to talk to anyone who's interested in dominating their niche and finding one first.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, I want to say thanks, and
Sure.
I'll be honest with you. We've only done about 3 or 4 of these, and I love this platform. I mean, I love that people can see.
Exciting.
Yeah, you're a real person. You're a real guy. It's like I've been doing this for over 4 years for Zillow, and it's always me talking, showing off a screen, walking through tutorials, and it's cool. But I love that we can broadcast live. I love that we can have multiple people in here. I love that we're not limited to 50,000 people watching a live stream right now, and so I do want to bring you back again and have you be a guest. I hope you'll come back and join us again.
I would love to come back again. I just want to say to the Zillow community how much I admire what you've done to bring this Zillow Academy about, because there's nothing more important than continuously sharpening your skills, and this academy is a great idea to do it. I really mean that.
Oh, thank you, Ron. And you know why? One of the reasons I love teaching is because they say the best way to learn is to teach.
Absolutely. Well, we have that in common for sure. Thank you so much for inviting us.
All right, my friend. I'm gonna blast one more time and show off the Zillow Academy calendar, which is right here, folks. If you want to sign up for any more classes, tomorrow I'm going to be doing the Premier Agent Overview. These are all GoToWebinar platforms. All of the sessions are complimentary on behalf of my company and your company too, Zillow. And hopefully we'll see you back here for another session at Zillow Academy. So with that, I want to say have a great rest of the day. I'll switch over here and get off the screen share, and we'll see you next time back here at Zillow Academy. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Ron. Tell Alexandra hi.
I will.
All righty, take care.
Thanks a lot.